Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we're going to be talking about the Modern Horizons 3 Precons. I have brought together all the different leaked cards from across the different kind of Precons, the different areas that have been leaked and officially revealed. There's a few officially revealed ones here, and kind of combine them together to talk about them, because I think that, you know, it's nice to kind of talk about what's coming up and stuff. I'm very interested to hear what you guys think, and which one's looking, you know, the most interesting, which one's looking, which one you're not sure about. So let's get into it. But before we get into it, I'd love to ask you guys if you could please subscribe to the channel. It helps me, you know, it's a free way that you can support the channel and everything like that. You'll be able to see more videos like this, more videos covering other Commander stuff, more covers, you know, the secret lairs, that kind of stuff. So if you could subscribe, that would be amazing, please. So the first one here we're going to be talking about is the Eldrazi Incursion one. So this is a 5-color plus colorless deck. It does look rather nice. It's actually very, very interesting, because last time when the Eldrazi deck came out, this is the original Eldrazi, what was it? Eldrazi Unbound Precon that came out with Commander Masters. You'll see very quickly that there is, you know, there's some Eldrazi in here, but it's very much not just Eldrazi. There's a lot of other stuff. In fact, even like this secondary commander here, Immerse, is not an Eldrazi. Yeah, it was certainly a choice. It mostly was just like, you know, a colorless deck, while this one here is making more use of, you know, the whole spectrum of colors while having a lot of devoid stuff. So technically, you know, colorless, but colored mana kind of stuff. So the face commander here is Ululek Fused Atrocity. So he is, you know, either one of each color, or you can replace those with colorless as well. Devoid, whenever you cast an Eldrazi spell, you can pay 2 colorless. If you do, copy all the spells you control, then copy all of the activated and triggered abilities you control. You may choose new targets for the copies. So first of all, this is Eldrazi spell, not necessarily going to be Eldrazi creatures. Everything on the stack that is a spell you're going to be able to copy. So, you know, you can use it after, you know, whatever creature you're casting, kind of trigger a whole bunch of things at once. I love the fact that it activates, you know, all the triggered and activated abilities again as well. It's very interesting. You can put a whole bunch of stuff on the stack. This is going to make a lot of use of the stack. You can't copy mana abilities, but everything else you're going to be able to. A very interesting face commander. The secondary commander here is Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. So he's basically, you know, the secondary option you've got for a commander here. He makes it so that whenever him or another colorless creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Then you can pay 1 of every color to give all of your creatures +X, where X is the amount of experience counters you got. Scions and spawns you control gain Indestructible and Annihilator 1 until end of turn. A very, very interesting secondary commander there. We've got Eldrazi Confluence, so a Confluence for Eldrazi here. You've got a few different options there. You know, you've got a Flicker option here, which is already going to be decently strong, especially when you combine it with like the main, you know, face commander there. You can give something +3/+0, so you could either buff your own stuff up or use it to off someone. And worst case scenario, you can even create an Eldrazi Scion from that. Sifter of Skulls here makes it so that whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you get to create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion token. And, you know, you've got Devoid here as well, but it does cost black. So you'll see very much that, you know, a lot of the cards will have the kind of see-through borders and stuff because they are devoid, but they will typically cost, you know, some kind of color to be able to play it. And now it makes a liar of me, and this is a complete colorless one. Twins of Discord here. Whenever you attack, choose odds or even. Creature with the mana value of that quality can't block this turn, and you give all your colorless creatures Bloodthirst 2. Spawnbed Protector. At the beginning of your end step, return an Eldrazi card from your graveyard to your hand, and then create 2 Scions. Eldritch Immunity here, give all your give a target creature protection from each color, or you can overload it to give everything on your side protection from each color. Selective Obliteration, each player chooses a color, and then you get to exile each permanent unless it's colorless or it's only the color its controller chose. So very interesting kind of board wipe there. Bismuth Mind Render here, Devoid Menace. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card, and then you can cast that by paying life instead of its mana value. Mutated Cultist here, black and 2. Devoid, when you cast this spell, remove all counters from up to one target opponent or permanent. The next spell you cast costs 1 less to cast for each counter removed this way. A very interesting counter hate card there. There's a lot of counters going around everywhere, so you could use this against something with a whole bunch of +1/+1s, or you could use it to potentially remove poisons off somebody else for some reason. I don't know. Ulameg's Dreadsire here. Vigilant, ward, sacrifice a permanent with mana value 1 or greater, and then you tap it to create a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. Inversion Behemoth. At the beginning of combat, you get to switch the power and toughness of any number of target creatures until end of turn. Technically, you can swap other people's creatures too. And then finally, an official reveal, which is Oblivion Sower. Whenever you cast this spell, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of their library. Then you may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile onto the battlefield and under your control. So you can steal other people's lands with this. Very, very interesting. Also, it makes it so that when you cast this spell, there's also a bunch of reprints here. So overall, this deck is very actual Eldrazi tribal. There's a fair bit of, colorless support and stuff like that. However, it is very heavily Eldrazi tribal, which is very interesting. I haven't included all of the reprints that people have said, just because I'm not entirely sure. But these ones here are actually shared as like a concept art. You can see here the actual, it's got the icon and everything like that. So they're more kind of permanent in my opinion. So yeah, very, very heavily Eldrazi tribal, looking very interesting. Apparently this deck could potentially have all the pain lands in it as well, which is very cool. This is probably the deck most people are interested in, definitely. So the next one here we've got is the Jund deck, Graveyard Overdrive. So this one is very heavily Legoith tribal. Well, it's not heavy. It's the face commander is Legoith tribal, but then everything else is like a lot of graveyard play or getting buffed by stuff in the graveyard. Not necessarily bringing stuff back from the graveyard, but getting stronger when stuff is in the graveyard. So this is Dis of the Restless, obviously the face commander here. Whenever a Legoith permanent is put into your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, you get to put it into the battlefield. And then when one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you get to create a Tarmogoyf token. So lots of very interesting stuff that you can potentially do with this. Self-milling stuff. We'll see as to how the reprints go. Assumedly, a lot of the Legoith cards will be reprinted into this deck. But it does look like a very, very interesting deck. So the secondary the secondary commander here is Someone the Undertaker. I'm not entirely sure what this says. He gets seemingly +X+0, where X is the greatest power among creature cards in your graveyard. Whenever he attacks, a player mills a card, and then during each of your turns, you may play a creature card from among cards put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn. Very similar to, it feels to me similar to kind of like the Master, what was it? The Master Transcendent, I believe it was. Something along those lines. Master Multiplied. Maybe it was Master Multiplied. No, it's not Master Multiplied. Master Transcendent, I think. The one from Fallout deck. Either way, you're kind of self-milling here a little bit, and then you get to play cards, creature cards from other people's graveyards if they were put there and stuff. Very, very, I like this as a commander by himself. I think it's going to be very interesting. But as a secondary commander, I think he's going to be really great here. We've got the Tarmogoyf Nest here, Kindred Enchantment. You buff a land, and then it's got pay 1 and a green to create a Tarmogoyf token. We've got Pyrogoyf. Pyrogoyf's power is equal to, most of the same way all the Legoiths have. Its power is equal to the number of cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is equal to that number +1 card type, sorry. And then when it or another Legoith creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. Barrogoyf, Death Touch and Lifelink, same thing there. And then this one here is when it deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards, and then you can put a creature card from them into your hand. This one here is Polygoyf. it's got trample and myriad and the same, you know, etc. Bloodbraid Challenger. So this is obviously, you know, Bloodbraid, the other Bloodbraid character. This one's got Cascade and Haste, but it's also got Escape built in too. Gluttonous Hellkite. When you cast this, each player sacrifices X creatures, and then it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1s on it for each creature sacrificed this way. Flying and trample 2, very strong. Bloodmate Tyrant, similar, you know, you can see that they've got, you know, a lot of stuff that's to do with Encore, a lot of stuff to, you know, sack your stuff with this, and, you know, escape and stuff along those lines. This one here, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create saplings. We've got Tempt with Mayhem. This one here, choose target instant or sorcery. Each opponent may copy that spell and may choose new targets for it, and then you get to copy it for each time someone else copies it. Sawhorn Nemesis, you get to double the damage someone takes. Archon of Cruelty reprint here. When it enters or attacks, target opponent sacrifices a creature or Planeswalker, discards a card and loses life, and then you get to draw a card and gain life. And then Grist got a reprint too, as well as the new Siege Gang Lieutenant, which is obviously, you know, a play on Siege Gang Commander. And then Exterminator Magmark here. You get to, what's this? Copy a spell that you cast against someone's permanent. Very, very interesting. And then Final Act, which is Farewell 2.0, but in black. So very much a kind of graveyard play deck, getting buffed by stuff in the graveyards, milling other people as well as milling yourself, and, you know, bringing your stuff back from the graveyard. Very cool. So we've got Modern Horizons 3. This is the Modern Horizons. Well, I don't know why I said that. This is the Tricky Terrain deck. So the last two haven't seen as many leaks. So Omo is the face commander here. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you get to put an everything counter on a land and a creature. The everything counters make stuff basically everything. A creature with it becomes every creature type. A land with it becomes every land type. Not every basic land type, every land type. So, you know, everything, like, you know, deserts, etc. I'll show you what that means later on. Euro got a reprint here. Joity. This one here is the other kind of the secondary commander here. When it enters, you get to create a green dryad land creature for each time you cast your commander. At the beginning of each combat, land creatures you control get buffed by his power. We got Reaver Cleaver reprint, which I'm pretty sure is in this deck. You know, it could potentially be in the other deck, but I believe it's going to be in this deck. March from Velas Vel. So this was an official reveal. You get to make everything into a land. Each leech. You get to turn lands into creatures for it. And then Planar Nexus. So this is what it means by every land type. So it means all the land types, but also cave, deserts, gates, lands, lairs, locusts, mines, power plants, spheres, towers, and urzas. So this is going to be reprinted in there. This is going to be printed in there too, which is insane. Aggressive Biomancy, create a whole bunch of tokens, and then they all fight things. Very, very cool. I love this. This is actually a very interesting card there. So yeah, this one's all about, you know, spreading a whole bunch of stuff, making everything, you know, and then making value from that as well, in various different ways. Land creatures, a whole bunch of land stuff, basically. This probably makes more sense if it was in the Jeskai deck. So it's probably in the Jeskai deck. I don't know. Kind of hard to know if this is in the Jeskai deck or in this one. You know, a whole bunch of stuff to do with your lands and everything, which is very, very interesting. I love it. It looks very cool. So then we've got the Jeskai deck here. The face commander here is whenever he attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of up to one other target non-token creature you control, and then you get to pay energy. So this is all based around energy and stuff. There is a lot of stuff in the base deck around energy too. So it's got Fabricate, and then give your other non-token creatures Fabricate. So this is the secondary commander there. A Jeskai Dwarf, which is very cool. You can also pay 2 and then tap it for Populate or Proliferate. Razorfield Ripper here. It's an equipment rhino, and then it also, when it equips, it gives +X/+X. where X is the amount of energy you control, and then it has reconfigure, either pay 2 or pay 3 energy. And that's the last one. There is really not all that much shown about the Jeskai deck so far, but it's obviously very energy as well as artifact. It's energy and artifact seemingly, because this is an artifact equipment, you know, fabricate, you know, and around tokens as well. So that's powerful payoffs. Yeah, a whole bunch of kind of tokeny stuff, it looks like, as well as energy based stuff. So if I'm going off of what I can see so far, I think that so far the Eldrazi one looks like it's going to be the most powerful, and not necessarily the most interesting, but it's probably the Eldrazi deck that a lot of people have kind of been waiting for, right? Like a lot of people have been waiting for the Eldrazi deck to kind of an actual Eldrazi kind of focused, devoid, big kind of deck based around that. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be my favorite deck, but I do think it's going to be a lot of people's favorite decks. And it's also the reason why it's probably the most expensive one to pre-order. I'm not talking about the actual collector's editions. This is just, you know, picture here. I do think that the tricky terrain one's probably going to be the most interesting. The everything counters are a new thing, and I'll be very interested to see what happens with the rest of that deck to kind of buff that up. In the base set, there is a lot of energy stuff revealed so far. Like, it leaks, there is so much energy stuff that it is ridiculous, right? Every color seemingly has a whole bunch of energy stuff, you know, maybe not black. Actually, no, there's some black energy stuff too. There is a bunch of energy stuff though. Keep in mind, there is also most recently another Jeskai energy deck too that just came out. The graveyard deck, very interesting to see, you know, Legoif's getting an actual like tribal deck. You know, more stuff kind of caring about Legoif's as well. So I think that personally, if I'm talking about the most interesting, I do think the Simic one is the most interesting, right? I think that the Eldrazi one is probably going to be the one that is most popular. I think the Jeskai and Jund ones aren't going to be too bad. I think that they're going to, you know, get some really great kind of options there. As well as, you know, recently there's been a whole bunch of energy stuff with the Fallout decks. I think that there's been a whole bunch of, you know, graveyard stuff as well recently. You know, there was a whole bunch of graveyard stuff in like MKM and stuff like that with the collecting evidence and stuff, but then you're kind of getting rid of the stuff in the graveyard. But, you know, self-mill stuff, something like Aftermath Analyst that, you know, allows you to mill and then you can sack it to bring all your lands back and stuff would be insane in that deck. Yeah, there's a lot of really, really cool stuff. I'd be very interested to hear what you guys think is the most powerful and which, oh, well, it's very hard to say which is the most powerful from the very minimal kind of show-offs that we've seen, but which one you're most interested in at the moment. I don't know. There's going to be I think there's going to be very, very, very varied, varied thoughts on this. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Have a great day and goodbye.